Lose guard. Keep your eyes on me.
Hello and welcome to another super exciting and yet informative episode of the Morning Buzz on your favorite TV station, Voice of the People Television. It's a beautiful Saturday morning here in the city of Lagos, cool Saturday actually, and it's 5th July 2025. So, promises to be exciting. My name is Adefunke Jayesimi.
And I am Jerry. I think good morning. Top on your radio this morning. Okay.
The court urges Senate to cancel Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's suspension.
All right. The Nigerian Medical Association (NMA) criticizes President Bola Tinubu's recent bilateral agreement to send Nigerian doctors to St. Lucia.
Interesting times are here, trust me, but these are the topics of discussion this beautiful Saturday morning. However, we also have other interesting trending stories. Before we proceed, we urge you to kindly click on the subscription button and subscribe to our YouTube channel on Voice of the People TV. On other social media platforms, we are VOP TV Live. Also visit our website at www.voptv.ng for fresh and trending news stories. As Voice of the People TV, your opinion matters to us. Therefore, we encourage you to call in and share your thoughts and reactions with us via WhatsApp on 090-447-32605. 090-447-32605 is the number to call in or text us via WhatsApp. And because here, you have more than a voice. While in the news this morning, former Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amaechi has called on Nigerians to actively resist elite dominance and take control of their future, warning that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's re-election in 2027 can only be stopped if citizens rise up against the current political system. Speaking in Abuja at the launch of the 2025 Nigeria Social Cohesion Survey by the African Polling Institute, Amaechi criticized Nigerians for privately complaining while remaining passive, insisting that meaningful change requires mass action, and even suggested a revolution. He also suggested that revolutions often come with sacrifice. Amaechi lamented the collapse of organized resistance in the country, highlighting the weakened state of labor unions and students' body that once held governments accountable. He also pointed to the past coordination between the NLC, ASU, and NANS as a model of effective civil pressure, but said current divisions, especially along ethnic lines, have undermined their strength. He warned that politicians have worsened the people's sufferings even more than the military once did, and linked rising crime to deepening economic hardship. The former Rivers State governor also revealed that he considered leaving the country but was persuaded by his wife to stay, calling Nigeria a lovely nation worth saving. Meanwhile, the executive director of the African Polling Institute, Professor Bell Ihua, who presented the survey report, urged policymakers to act on its findings, noting that Nigerians are united by shared economic struggles and that restoring public trust requires responsive and inclusive governance. Like I said at the beginning of the program, it's interesting. I mean, interesting days are here, not even in the future anymore. But coming from the former governor of Rivers State and, of course, the former minister is just barely 2 years out of office, saying that Nigerians cry privately, and when they come out, they just act like everything is wrong, and that politicians have worsened the people's suffering. I mean, I don't want to get all emotional with this, with his opinion or thought, but I would like to hear from Jerry. What do you make of this suggestion coming from Amaechi? Because he even suggested that no revolution happened without bloodshed. That's heavy.
Yeah, Rotimi Amaechi has always proven to be a vocal person, and he speaks his mind. Whether he's
Since when?
Yeah, he speaks his mind. Yeah, if we've seen various situations where he said things even against the government he's even part of. I remember there was a leak where he said something about Buhari's not minding the business of Nigerians. I think he stated a situation where Buhari had...
It was a leak, yeah.
Yeah, that
it was a leak,
people were complaining about
it. It was a leak, so it's actually complicit of what he's accusing Nigerians of, because he was talking behind the doors, and it was just fortunate for Nigerians to even see beyond what we see on TV.
But the reality is that what Rotimi Amaechi is saying, as far as the message is concerned, is actually true. This is what a lot of those who are in the elite circle who understand the rudiments of what is really wrong with Nigeria understand that Nigerians have become docile. Whose fault is it? I think along the line, our religious bodies, talking about leaders,
Right.
as well as our politicians, have found a lot of loopholes in terms of creating ethnic lines, divisions, using religion to suppress you to say, don't go against this, don't do that. And at a point, Nigerians are also afraid to die
But
because
is it wrong
because
for the church
Nigerians
or
love.
mosques? Is it wrong for the church or mosques or whether your
Yeah, that is what they would definitely
to
pray.
encourage you to be at peace? I mean,
Yeah, of course, it's their norm. It's what they are meant to be. But he also made mention that no revolution has come without bloodshed. But we are not asking for that. But definitely, whatever he is saying, he is also part of the problem. But at least someone who is part of the problem is also saying these are the issues. What happened to back then when we have the labor unions coming out to protest when issues are not aligning with that of the people? It has to take end bad governance, various pressure groups who will not matter because the government will not take them seriously. The labor unions have become a joke. The trade union congress has become a joke. So at the end of the day, it's a free for all.
Whose fault is it? Because I like the fact that you've highlighted how these things work and how it takes somebody that is part of the system to highlight what the problems are and maybe for Nigerians to seek the way forward. But whose fault is it that these labor unions are like this? And since when? Because all of these things seem like a normal replay of what usually happens ahead of electioneering year. Prior to the end of Jonathan's administration, the All Progressives Congress had so many things to say about the administration. As a matter of fact, Rotimi Amaechi had so much to say about the administration because he was a part of that administration, serving as governor in that particular administration. And coming out to highlight everything that was wrong, both propaganda and truth at the time, they were able to garner the sympathy because that's what I see. That's what I see in Buhari's election. Because there was no way you would tell me as a Nigerian at the time that all of Buhari's personality before 2014 were whitewashed and is now a new person. There was no way you were going to say that to me. But of course, Nigerians are usually driven by this political elite who would do anything to garner the sympathy of masses just to be on their side. And at the end of the day, still recycle the same thing. What are they going to do differently? Absolutely nothing. Yeah. Amaechi had everything to talk about Jonathan's administration. And it was easy for Nigerians to believe because at the time, for us, it was about, oh, they were with him. They were in the same party. They are of the same political party. They served during the same time. So for them to come and tell us this is what is happening in the party, that means they knew better and would have done better. Fortunately, he finished 8th term as governor, was a part of Buhari's administration, became minister. And at the end of the day, what was done differently? I'm not against him coming to tell us what the problems are. There is nothing new about these problems that we are not aware of. But my position is, when you had the opportunity, we're close to power on different levels. What did you do
I
differently?
think I remember Rotimi Amaechi saying that the president doesn't listen when he was the transportation minister.
He could have resigned.
Yeah, he
could have resigned. We saw people resign when Pastor Tony Omoyeno defected party. There are people with political values.
Speaking for him, at least during his time, was able to make sure that railway transportation at the federal level was actualized as a transportation minister. But that being said, I think what I just foresee, as far as Nigeria is concerned, is that the politicians have benefited from the way Nigeria has become. And communication theory teaches me, as far as the spiral of silence theory, is that Nigerians have become silent because they now say, hey, if we cannot beat them, let's join them. Let's just be among those who are quiet.
That's why I share a different opinion. Nigerians did not just become tired.
But in the long run, what the danger of it is another repetition of NSAS. Because when the labor unions are not vocal to speak for the people will now take the decision to go out on the streets. And if another NSAS happens, from the lessons of what happened the last time, it might not be as easy to quell as the NSAS was.
It's never wrong. It's constitutional to protest. It's never wrong to protest. But you might only speak from your perspective because it's not every Nigerian that feels the need to jump on the street. But let's move to the next story.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, talking about the banking sector, where two leading Nigerian banks, United Bank for Africa, UBA, and Wema Bank, have announced the resumption of international transactions on their Naira debit card nearly 3 years after such services were suspended due to foreign exchange challenges. UBA says its premium Naira cards, including gold, platinum, and world variants, are now enabled for global use across ATMs, POS, and online platforms. Women Bank also confirmed that customers can now make dollar payments on international platforms using their Naira MasterCards. And financial experts attribute this shift to improve liquidity in the foreign exchange market, stronger Naira, increased diaspora remittances, and renewed confidence in foreign exchange management by the Central Bank of Nigeria. And with Nigerians' credit ratings improving and FS backlogs being cleared, banks are gradually restoring international financial access for their customers. Okay, I think this is a good news for the elite, because I don't know.
What do you mean by the elite?
Yeah, those who travel around the world and shop in dollars, because you can the market woman is not. I don't know whether this
no. So it depends on what you mean by market woman, because before that happened 3 years ago, you could shop from the convenience of your home anywhere in the world and get to pay with your card. Okay. I used to deal in jewelries, and I know that a lot of the purchase from China at the time was done. Yeah, it actually affected me, because you can shop for stuff from Germany, Thailand, Turkey, I mean, across the globe, major countries across the globe, and a lot of businesses were being done low-key. People could actually place orders, get it delivered to them, and resell in the local market here. So it wasn't necessarily a major, if it didn't have major effect on just the elite, it had major effect on even startup business. You could transact business with someone. At the time, we also have apps where you could be a freelancer back home in Nigeria here and engage someone outside the country. You might do a research work. I remember doing a research work from my former station, and I had to connect to somebody in India. All of these things were easier when you could do stuff from your card. But at the point where that was stopped and bad, a lot of Nigerians suffered. As a matter of fact, that actually stopped someone like me, because for me, I could order for 10 pieces, 20 pieces, 20 pieces, 50 pieces, and just get local cards to make payment. But the moment you have to go through the stress of having to pay, doing conversions, and having to even use some agencies or platform to make payment, it becomes really, really tough. And business
is Naira really stronger? Because the story says
so when they say Naira is stronger, I understand where the position of a lot of people that wants to eat rice and are hungry comes from. But the dependency or the stability of Naira is not limited to just whether you used to eat 5,000 worth of EBA 5 years ago and you're eating 20 million worth of EBA in 2025. It's stability. Over a period of months, over a period of time, Naira has been stable. When Naira fluctuates, it affects businesses. It affects the competition even in the global space. It even affects business owners, because at this point, this is what you plan, and by the time you're trying to make a transaction, something else is happening, and it even makes you limited to be able to have good plan for your business. But with the stability, whether it's 1 Naira or 1,005 Naira or it's 5,000 Naira to $1, the point remains, the stability makes the currency competitive in the global space.
All right. Anyway, the convenience is mostly for the banking sector, because they get to make lots of more money, and of course, definitely the elites like. Okay, we benefit from the stability.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Because as far as I'm concerned, I will still not be able to buy, for instance, a phone at the moment. Do you know the cost of phone now because of the exchange rate? How much does the average Nigerian really earn to be able to replace their phones? I think I saw a story where Nigerians were complaining that they could no longer afford phones. People are not even buying Nigerian use. Talking about somebody who has used the phone and is privileged to have someone buy for them, or so on and so forth. It's that bad. Go to the business outlets. Okay, even buying online.
Yeah, for instance, I understand
even
that
buying online, it's even difficult. How many of us can afford to take a plane to any country? Okay, you can go online, for instance. You look at your exchange rate. Naira debit card. How far? Okay, let me say a phone, a dollar is about 1,500 or to 1,600. Just look at your situation. But anyway, it's a good story.
I
It's a
understand.
good
So
one
it's
for,
not just about the story
yeah,
that is good now.
yeah,
I understand the position of affordability and the purchasing
the
power
exchange rate,
of Nigerians. I understand what Nigerians earn and how their livelihood have been affected with the economic crisis that we have to deal with. That's not something that I want to put by the side.
Okay,
but for this particular topic, it's a good step and it's progress, and we can take that out of the equation. However, the policies relate or affect a particular class of people is not really what the question is at the time. It's about the banking sector having been able to make progress with something that felt like a setback some years back, and with the implementation of some of the policies and the maybe process of the CBN trying to make things better in that sector, it can only get better. Whatever the situation is, it's important to highlight how we got here, what the situation is supposed to address, and hope for a better future for Nigerian citizens.
And this takes me back to a coverage I did sometime last year where a manufacturer was complaining on how the banking sector has been frustrating his business. He said he gave a situation where he cleared his foreign exchange debts, which he took from the bank to pay for his imported goods. Okay, yes. And eventually, some 1-2 years after, when the exchange rate has gone up, he made another transaction before the exchange rate went up. So when he was trying to make a refund, they said he has to pay back in the current exchange rate and not the exchange rate which he collected the money, and he was already to pay the money, and it became a difficult situation. He even had to write to the government to help him, but it looks like the banking sector, of course, we all know that they also have a way to the politicians and those who are in charge, and it became a difficult situation. The manufacturers are really crying.
You just actually buttress my point with the importance of the stability of Naira. All of this has happened because of the fluctuations, but when the Naira is stable, whatever business you are going into, you already know that this is what I'm putting in and this is what is expected. When you talk about...
My fingers are actually pointing at the banking sector. Well, so now exactly, they are benefiting. They should also make sure the manufacturers
made a lot of
also
money.
benefit
You've talked about them, but in some way you still get to link them to government and say that because they have connections. These are business owners. The banking sectors is under another institution that is supposed to be independent. These are people that are into business.
We all know
so
the story
whether
about
they are
the CBN,
connected with the...
We know the Emefiele regime where dollars were given to the privileged. And
they are Nigerians. And they are actually Nigerians too.
And so it's against those who actually need it.
It's unfortunate because every Nigerian sees the opportunity to make money as the way forward until it becomes something that is no longer favorable. But we just really hope for a better space in Nigeria where people can actually do business and live the life that they want with the available resources, not having to break the bank. But let's move on to the newspaper review for another 10 minutes. We'll go on a break now, and when we return, we bring to you the top stories making the headlines this morning. Please stay tuned. All right, many thanks for staying with the Morning Buzz on VOP Television this beautiful Saturday morning. So we'll be starting off with some of the stories making headlines this beautiful morning. Let's start with the stories on the Saturday Vanguard. So on the cover page of the Saturday Vanguard, at the top of the mass, we see how PDP governors surrendered South-South to Tinubu. And another story says, Mba shines as journalists storm a no-go. Oshoba reacts to editor's mischief, tells story. The story is available on page 23. And yes, the big story on the cover page of the Vanguard newspaper says, I will support Peter Obi if he emerges coalition candidates. This is coming from Sule Lamido, former governor of Jigawa State, and that story is available for you to read on page 11. Obi has support everywhere, including the North. This coming from Ibrahim Nakande. North may have no choice than to support Southern candidates. This is coming from MBF. And finally, Mohammed Danlami says North will not be deceived again. Obi may renege. Well, we're hopeful to see where all of these stories head to, but looks like the coalition is making major headlines. On the part of Sanwo-Olu on the cover page, on page 5, we see anti-Tinubu coalition will fail. That's the thought of the Lagos State governor. Anti-Tinubu coalition will fail. Well, people will say what's expected of the Lagos State governor.
Yeah, definitely you have to support your godfather, and of course, very interesting one there. And coming from Lamido, he has been an active voice. I remember he said something about talking about him. Anyway, let's go to the Punch newspaper now, where on top of the paper we have huge cost of my trip. What I saw. This is from the first Nigerian in space, talking about Owolabi Salis, and still on top of the paper there. And this one says COVID-19 fraud. U.S. court jails pastor as Osun monarch forfeits property. And still there, Abuja strike. Opioids turn hawkers. Teachers beg for survival. Wow, Federal Capital Territory. And the major headline there has ADC target 5 governors as Sanwo-Olu, Wike, knock coalition leaders. On the right there, there's PDP governors ready to defect to our party. Okay, anti-Tinubu group hallucinating, says PDP. And still following up with that, we regret not marrying more women. Wow, senior citizens. Wow, the senior citizens there. Polygamy too risky, says retiree. Okay, someone opposing that. And under the paper of the Punch, we have people called me a fool for returning lost 4 million naira. That's a try. And the Keke Marwa guy is in Abia State. Okay, and Senate gives conditions for Natasha's return after court judgment. Okay, Senate is still after the court judgment. They're still having their own thoughts. Okay, and this one says Two-Face there saying Two Baba inner cycle moves to stop meltdown, and under it finally has been in Togo. Owe Nigeria $11 million in electricity debt. ADRC. Who will pay this money? Okay, that's a lot of money in dollars. Okay.
Well, thank you so much for that headline. But interesting times are here, and the cover pages are really, really interesting. But we won't be doing this alone. We are now joined by Dr. Peter Anosike, Voice of the People in-house analyst, who is live in the studio here with us. Joining us virtually this morning is Mr. Dele Fanimo, another VOP in-house analyst. And from our Benin studio, we have Comrade Bobby Egosa Obanyuwana, a public affairs and political analyst, who will be joining us on the stories on the cover pages. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Yeah, we've read out some of the stories on the cover pages. So let's get your reaction. Which of the stories makes it for you today?
Let me start with your analysis of the banking thing. I was watching a female version of Nai Mohammed, sincerely. I was watching a female version of Nai Mohammed. That's trying to defend the indefensible. So it is good that Naira capitalized at 1,500. On June 13th, just a month ago, I was in Ghana. My air ticket was 560,000 Naira because of the exchange rate. Understand me? My air ticket was 560,000 Naira because of the exchange rate. It is from Lagos to Accra, and from Lagos to Abuja. You get to Accra before you get to Abuja, because it's just 45 minutes. But I paid 560,000 Naira because of the exchange rate. The Ghanaian cedi is far higher than our own. That's our own. So when you convert, you pay a lot of money. Understand me?
Yeah.
In business, most important thing is affordability. Understand me? If fuel is everywhere and you cannot afford it, it doesn't make any meaning.
Okay, I get what you're talking about now, but if this is in reaction to the ability of Nigerians to be able to use their cards in every part of the world, it's about the stability of the naira. It's not about the exchange rate. Using the card,
Nigeria is good at stabilizing at 1,500.
I did not talk about how much good or bad the rate is. You cannot misquote me while I'm sitting down right in front of you. I spoke about
how does
the
that
international
affect the woman at Oyimbo?
Exactly. That was the point that Jerry raised, and I spoke about the fact that this matter being discussed about using international cards will not affect the common man whose priority is to be able to get affordable food. International cards for Nigerians to be able for Nigerians. Is it for the elite or for the masses? So this is about the banking sector. The banking sector, two top banks, UBA and Wema Bank, has come to say that we have cards that can be used globally. And I only established why that was made possible. It was not in it. I mean, the banks are not responsible for Nigerians not being able to buy Gari at 5 naira. So let's not misquote each other here, and don't take me out of context. I'm not here to defend how the sufferings of Nigerians matter or don't matter to the government. I'm here to establish why these banks were able to make this progress and what the situation is currently. But I wanted your reaction on the cover pages of the national dailies, having read out some of the stories so far.
Well, for me, I will pick what the former governor of Jigawa said.
Sule Lamido.
Sule Lamido.
Okay.
And I have said it over and over that angels cannot be on the ballot box. There are a lot of bad cards in politics.
Right.
So no nice guy can win an election. Understand me? So the issue is this: P2B is not a saint; it's not an angel. Understand me? And for Atiku to be that's what he said is not extraordinary. He is a member of the coalition, and he said, "I will support P2B if P2B wins."
That's Atiku or Lamido. Who are you talking about now?
Lamido is saying that he will support P2B. Understand me?
Yeah, he supports the coalition, but he's not a member of the coalition.
No, he said that he's remaining in PDP.
And supporting the coalition.
And supporting
yeah, he didn't join the coalition.
Which is a very good tactics. Understand me? Because the next on weekend is in PDP and supporting APC. So I want those in PDP to remain, be working against the PDP and the APC and be supporting coalition. It's a very good tactic.
All right.
So him saying that he will support P2B does not mean that he will not support maybe Rotimi Amaechi or Atiku Abubakar. This simply means I will support whoever wins. Understand me? It doesn't mean that if Atiku wins that he will not support Atiku.
No, but he's already said, it was clear on his thoughts that his support is actually going to Peter Obi, and that he would go all out to support Peter Obi if he emerges.
If he emerges.
Exactly. So he didn't give an option of whoever, whether Atiku or Obi. He was clear on his thoughts.
So if he emerges, understand me, that did not for no supporting any other person if that person emerges. Understand me? So we should be clear on what he's saying.
Okay.
Understand me? We should be clear on what he is saying. What he said is different from what Dati Ahmed said. Dati Ahmed said that P2B should not take the position of vice president.
So it's most likely two different personalities. Of course, beyond the two of them, there are a lot of people that have their thoughts on the position of Peter Obi, knowing how he has been popular and, I mean, has the heart of a lot of Nigerians. But saying that Peter Obi should not be a running mate, that's coming from Ahmed Dati, and Sule Lamido saying that Peter Obi should emerge as presidential candidate.
No, that's not. He said he will support Peter Obi if he emerges.
Yeah.
If he emerges
if the coalition picks him
as the
presidential candidate, it's the same thing. That's the same thing that Ahmed Dat is saying, that anything other than being the presidential candidate should not be accepted.
Which is different from what Namido said.
Okay, everything is quite clear there, and it looks like the momentum is building already as far as who would be the candidate for the coalition is concerned. But definitely we'll wait as that continues to unfold.
Of course, we're here for it. I mean, it's a long, long political season. This is about the longest, having to have this kind of energy more than 12 months ahead of the next election is a good one. I mean, there will be a lot of alignment, realignment, and all that. But at the end of the day, it's important that Nigerians get what is best and a president that has the interest of the people, regardless of whatever platform they choose to come out from. Well, let's go to some of the stories that we'll be talking about today as the court urges Senate to cancel Natasha's suspension. Well, we'll be bringing details of this after this break. Please stay with us.
Extraordinary. Something big is happening on your screen. Introducing VOP TV. Now streaming on SLTV channel 264. From breaking news to captivating conversations, news analysis, giving you all sides to the story. We break in-depth discussions on the issues that matter, from politics to sports, entertainment, and lifestyle. VOP TV on SLTV channel 264. Join us as we redefine what television means to you. Voice of the People Television. VOP TV. Now you have more than a voice.
Many thanks for staying with the Morning Buzz. Yeah, a federal high court in Abuja has described the 6-month suspension of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, representing Kogi Central, as excessive and urged the Senate to reconsider its decision. Delivering the judgment, Justice Binta Inyako ruled that the Senate action violated the rights of our constituents, as lawmakers are constitutionally required to sit for 181 days, making the suspension nearly equivalent to excluding her for a full legislative session. The court also declared parts of the Senate Standing Rules and the Legislative House Powers and Privileges Act as overreaching, as they failed to define a suspension limit. While upholding the Senate's authority to discipline its members, the court emphasized that such actions must be proportionate and must not infringe on the people's rights to representation. Justice Nyako also ruled in favor of Senate President Godswill Akpabio's decision to deny Akpoti-Uduaghan a chance to speak during plenary, as she was not in a designated seat. Additionally, the court rejected Akpabio's claim that the matter was strictly an internal affair of the Senate, affirming the court's jurisdiction. Well, to discuss this and have better understanding and insight, we have with us Dr. Peter Andosike is still with us in the studio, and Mr. Dele Fanimo joining us virtually. We have from Benin, Comrade Bobby Egosa Obanyuwana, a public affairs analyst, who will be joining us virtually. Good morning, gentlemen. Okay, let's come to the studio and start with you, Doctor. The judgment is clear, and yes, even though we had a recent development from the Senate saying that it wasn't mandated to withdraw the suspension, but what do you make of this judgment, looking at how the court has said that it was overreaching for the Senate to have punished her for that month? 6 months is a long time, and also agreeing that the Senate president was right by not allowing her to speak because she was not sitting at a designated sitting position.
Well, for me, this case has several parts. To start with, Senate has their rules, and or the rules. I don't know if terms. That's how many months, how many weeks somebody will be suspended is there.
There was no limit.
Yes,
the judge said that they needed to correct that part of their power book because
No, the court shouldn't decide for the Senate because they have their guidelines.
okay.
But this particular case, what they did is an overkill. It was not professionally handled. There was a lot of bias. Understand me?
Right.
There was a lot of bias, and for me, Amaechi is being persecuted, not prosecuted. He is being persecuted, not prosecuted, because what she's been accused of, other senators have been doing it in the past, including Akpabio himself. We saw Akpabio when Saraki
Senate President Saraki
was the Senate President. He left his own chair, was marching like a bulldog, like a madman to the Senate President. And Saraki told him, go back to your seat before I will recognize you. Understand me?
Yeah.
So she is being persecuted, not prosecuted.
Okay, so you feel that she's been persecuted, not prosecuted, but you also agree that they have the rulings in the House and the president was right to not allow her speak? I need clarity on that point.
No.
Because you said that the court
For
cannot
you
interfere.
I said what she's been accused of. Babio himself has done that, and he was not suspended.
However, the
That's the most
position of the
important
Senate.
thing. He was not suspended when he committed that same offense.
Okay, let me come to Mr. Dele Fanimo joining us virtually from your state. Mr. Fanimo, good morning. I'd like to get your reaction and thoughts on the judgment. Please unmute your mic. Okay, I'll come back to you. Please unmute your mic and get ready.
Yeah, I really want to ask Dr. Anosike something, because the thing is that since this dispensation, I've been asking questions about the roles of checks and balance. I think I'm a student of government, and I know that the legislative arm of government is meant to make laws, while the judiciary is meant to interpret the laws, and the executive is meant to execute. Now, we've seen a situation where the legislature and the executive are working hand in hand, because we also know that they've taken Natasha to court, talking about a combination of the executive and the legislative. Now the judiciary is coming out to interpret what the law says. Okay, yeah, you can suspend, you can discipline your colleague, but you don't have to take it this far. There are already rules and regulations that guide disciplining your. And now the Senate is saying that, okay, yeah, you can tell us this is what the Constitution says, but you cannot tell us how to discipline. So who will now make sure that the rule of law takes its course? Because if the Senate has gone into a rascal mode, who calls it to order? Because now it looks like the executive and the legislature are arms in arms as far as this is concerned. So Natasha is the victim here. So who protects her, for instance, from being from her rights being abused? Because according to the interpretation of judgment, it also says that you don't have to deny her people representation. Because if you take a look at the circle of what the suspension says, that means she will not be able to represent her people for that day. So those periods, her people will be denied representation. So who calls them to order?
That is that, but that's why I said that she's been persecuted,
yeah.
not prosecuted. And the Senate that you are talking about is just old people's privilege home. Understand me? That's what they are. Old people's privilege home. Understand? So I'm talking about checks and balances here.
Yeah.
We don't have judiciary in Nigeria. We don't have legislature in Nigeria. All these are mere departments of the executive. they are not functioning. Understand me? They are not functioning. That's why I said that when I said that they did an overkill, it means that Kogi Central for 6 months has nobody speaking for them.
Right.
Understand me? So there was no empathy here. There was not empathy. They were not following due process. This is just let us deal with this stubborn woman by corrupt, complicit, criminal elements in the Senate.
Okay.
Are you saying this judgment doesn't look like a victory yet? That Natasha should not celebrate that she might be returning anytime soon? Because that's what people were already feeling with this judgment. That
No, she can't actually celebrate now because the counsel to the Senate, that's Paul Dauda, SAN, has come to say that the judgment was clear and the judgment did not in any way say that it has to reinstate her immediately, but for them to have a rethink as the laws of the Senate is clear with them having the power to, pass judgment, but just that the limitation and the extent to which they can go should be fair enough considering the people in our constitution and that they are going to have
it already says that the 6 months is not tenable. Return back to status quo. When we need to be clear is, yeah, that's what
reading did you go through the judgment? The judgment clearly states that the Senate has its rules, which Dr. Anosike agreed to.
The court cannot interfere.
The truth is, I am all about the voice of a woman, so I'm not against her. But the truth is, the court does not in any way have the right to interfere with the rules and regulation of the Senate. They are only calling for a human face to how they choose to deal with the situation. They cannot interface actually. But I want us to look at it from the position of women, because a lot of people actually mistaking women in politics for women in governance. We have a lot of women in politics who are being used when it comes to politicking, but when it comes to governance, elected office and positions, we can basically count the number of women that are active, and there's a difference between even being in governance and even being heard. So having someone like Akpoti Udua going through all of this, what does this say about women representation and how they are allowed to act when it comes to political office holding?
Well, Nigerian men have not really evolved to the extent of recognizing the right of women. Remember what Buhari said when Aisha said that her husband's government had been hijacked. Buhari said that Aisha belongs to the other room. Understand me?
Which is heartbreaking.
Which is shameful. Understand me? Which means she doesn't deserve to be heard. She's just a tool in the house.
But during campaigns, Aisha can go out and talk to people, and women would support her husband.
So that's the mindset of most Nigerian men. Understand? And in a Senate of 109 members, they just have 4 women. Why we have even left 35% affirmative action and not talking about equal representation 50-50. But Nigeria is still very, very backward. So, and I don't know when we will get out of that. We need a mind shift. We have had women occupying a very important positions in other parts of the world. Understand?
Yeah.
Clinton was the U.S. Secretary of State, which is even more powerful than the Vice President. Understand me? But in Nigeria, politically, women are nowhere. Even and in Nigeria and other parts of the world, women vote more than men.
Exactly. That was why I said that our presence politically is visible. But when it comes to governance, it feels like women are doing too much.
Women vote more than men.
All right, let's go to Mr. Dele Fanimo now. Good morning, Mr. Fanimo.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I would like to get your reaction. We can hear you loud and clear. I would like to get your reaction. Senator Akpoti Udua, her position in the Senate. Do you think that the judgment is fair to not just a person, but the entire women population in politics?
Well, there are 2 angles to this judgment. there is a judgment that was ruled against her, which was contempt. I hope we are not discountenancing that.
Yeah.
And there's another judgment that rules in her favor, that she should be returned to the Senate. For me, I feel that that judgment was right in telling the Senate that they should reinstate her immediately. Because the suspension of Apoti for 6 months is not much of effect on her. She can live a normal life, she can still do other businesses, and she can still do a lot of things for herself. But it is the constituency that she represents that is likely and is now suffering. For instance, I tell you, there was a bill that she sponsored to resuscitate Ajakuta steel rolling mill,
Sure.
which is a quantum leap in our quest for development and growth in Nigeria. Because that bill, if it's accented to by the president, I can tell you that bill can give over 30,000 jobs, direct jobs, and over 1 million indirect jobs. In a country where we are still struggling with high unemployment rates. And of course, it will also bring foreign direct investment, which in turn will increase our GDP and also bring more money to the country. So for me, it is not Apoti that is suffering this suspension. Our own suffering cannot be compared to that of the constituency and even to Nigerians as a whole. So it is right in coming, and I salute the courage of the judge, Binta Nyako, despite the fact that she has been vilified several times because of her stand in some other cases. But in this case, because it favors Nigerians, Binta is a celebrity now. But I want to tell you that at the same time, the court cannot have that absolute control over the rules of the Senate. And I expect that for that, they should approach an appellate court, because it will be setting a bad precedent if the court that is supposed to interpret what comes out from the National Assembly, from the legislative arm, is now imposing a rule that is not directly constitutional on the Senate. But let's see how it pans out. This judgment was given yesterday and on Thursday, and I expect that there will be reaction from the Senate. But by and large, I want them to reinstate Apoti, even if for the sake of its constituents, our constituency, and Nigerians as a whole, because that woman has brought something new into the affairs of the Senate by working on a bill that is entirely altruistic, in spite of the fact that that company is located within a senatorial district. But it's not going to benefit that senatorial district alone. It's going to benefit Nigeria and Nigerians as a whole. So I would expect that she is reinstated, while if there is any reason for the Senate as a body to challenge and oust the jurisdiction of the court on adjudicating on the rules of the House, that's where I expect would happen.
Yeah, Mr. Fanimo, taking a look at this situation, let's not forget that there have been moves to unseat her through recall, and that did not succeed. And of course, I also want to mention the contempt of court, where she actually defaulted. And taking a look at all of this, in spite of it looks like Natasha is like the proverbial cat with so many lives. She has survived a whole lot of it. But if she comes back to the Senate, for instance, do you think she's going to get the reception that she deserves, and she's going to feel safe among those wolves who are after bringing her down at all costs?
You see, for me, you see, the politicians are a different breed. You understand? They have a way of settling their differences beyond the glare of the public. And I can tell you, even before this judgment, I'm sure that there have been some kind of rapprochement between her and some other members of the Senate. And so with this, if she's coming back, you'll be surprised that some people will even welcome her, and warmly too. So it's about permanent interest. And so nobody's going to create unnecessary enmity between 2 or 3 or more people. So I am sure that it's not going to be a major problem. I'm sure they must have been relating outside of the glare of the public or the media. And so it's not going to be a difficult thing for her to be welcomed back to the Senate. But what still remains is that by the time she comes back to the floor of the Senate, I think there should be a kind of settlement that will bring about withdrawal of all these cases. I think there are about 4 cases now pending in court. One is criminal, one some are civil. The criminal aspect is still pending in court, and so I want the Senate to be magnanimous enough to be able to resolve this and let this distraction pass so that we can face the real job for which these people are elected in the first place.
Yeah, I think it's good that you're becoming a peace ambassador and you're looking forward to peace. But Mr. Fanimo, we all know that those in the Senate, Akpabio does not look like he has forgiven her, because there's a standing order amongst them that she must tender a public apology. And we all know Natasha has been stubborn on this part, saying that she still stands on existing protocol. And if this continues, it will be like a situation where Dino Melaye and Remi Tinubu had their issues on even till today. We've seen a lot of enmity that went on even after their days in the Senate. So even if it might look like, okay, she'll be accepted, do you even think her bill will even be considered in any future, as far as the next 2 years of this, her tenure as senator is concerned? But maybe I will just give that to Dr. Anas.
Yes. The issue is the political equation in Nigeria changed from 3 days ago.
Okay.
Understand me? Before then, APC thought that Nigeria is in their pocket. Understand me? Even I sent to a sitting senator that 7 easy steps to join ADC. Understand me? And I was waiting for him to react harshly so that I will insult him. Understand me? I sent that. I forwarded even to Dede Fanemo.
You forwarded to me too. So why are you about the response of people so you can insult them?
For the coalition.
Wait, this is a psychology, and to at least to hazard a guess of what is going on in the mind of the people. So I was deliberately forwarding even to APC people. So Akpabio is not as strong as he was 5 days ago. Understand me? APC is no more as strong. Now everybody is going to trade carefully.
Right. Understand
me? She will come back and continue her business. The gara that APC was doing is ending. Everybody is going to be careful from now onwards.
But on the apology.
And that's why balance is very, very important. Understand me? APC will no more be behaving as a Idi Amin in his time. And that's one thing that I am happy about.
Let me give this to Mr. Dele Fanimo. Taking a look at Natasha, because they've seen situations where those who are the underdogs takes advantage of a situation where they are getting sympathy. If you are Natasha and you are part of a team, what advantage do you think she should take from this? Maybe maybe looking at governorship position in 2027, or something that would at least come out of this? Because I think it looks like Ashine just being in the Senate is making her look like a crayfish inside the soup. What do you think, Dr. Mr. Fanimo?
Natasha is from a minority area in Kogi State.
Yes.
And so it will be difficult for her to take a shot at the governorship. Two, there's a different cultural approach to politics in that part of the country. I don't think Kogi State will be ready and willing to accommodate a woman governor for now. Maybe the game could change in the nearest future. Look at what happened in Adamawa. That woman was coasting home, but the powers that be knew that that would be a game changer, and it could be a direct assault on men, given their religious and cultural outlook and perception. So I would want Natasha to contest. She's already popular in senatorial districts. Maybe she should contest and come back to the Senate and see how best it could manage the situation on ground, to the extent that she can be given, after all, she's a lawyer, she can be given a powerful committee chairmanship that will make her relevant, because I want her to pursue this Ajaokuta. If the presidency, the executive arm of government, is not looking the way of Ajaokuta, because that project is at the heart of somebody like me, because I know the multiplier effect of that project.
Right.
All these girl child empowerment that we are borrowing money that we can't even trace where the money is going to. If they channel that money to resuscitating Ajaokuta and Alaja steel mill, you imagine how many car companies that would come and set up assembly in Nigeria, because the major component of making a car is here. And we have abundant feed from the southeast and part of Kogi State that can feed this smelter company and these steel companies. So somebody like Akapoti, if she's returned to the Senate, it could take time, but she would, of course, one thing about politics is that for you to be able to survive in politics, you must, as much as possible, relate with your colleagues.
All right.
And build consensus. And I'm sure that Natasha is strong and capable enough to build consensus. And she has risen from the ashes like the phoenix. And so she has the quality, the sagacity, and the enablement that would enable her come back to the Senate better and stronger.
Okay, Mr. Fanimo.
So that she can make but for the governorship thing, I don't think it's right now.
I want to ask you another question, Mr. Fanimo, because a part of the judgment also talked about her making an apology post across at least 2 national dailies and a fine of 5 million naira. Do you see her doing that? And do you think that with all of the situation around the judgment and attacks and counterattacks, do you see her acceptability coming smoothly and easy, understanding that the Senate, understanding that a lot of people are more interested in a representation in the Senate?
You see, the judgment has placed her on a very good pedestal. Now, it's not as if she's tendering the apology on her own volition. It is on the strength of the judgment that was passed. So she's not going to be seen as a villain. And she also knows as a lawyer that she cannot discountenance except that judgment is vacated. She cannot discountenance, but that would be contempt of court, and she could be in jail for that. So for every Nigerian, the optics is, this woman has fought a good battle.
Right. And
now it is the court, and because she's a lawyer, she's a member of the Senate that makes laws, then automatically she must obey the court. So whatever apology she's tendering will not be seen as from the weak point that the people that insisted on an apology were asking her to do. So for me, I think in obeying the judgment, because it's a two-way judgment, one favoring her and the other one going against her, which was contempt.
All right, thank you very
I
much.
think she should obey the law.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fanimo.
All right, and that takes us to the next on the agenda today, where the Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, criticizes President Bola Tinubu's recent bilateral agreement to send Nigerian doctors to St. Lucia. And of course, it has generated so much controversy since then. We'll now go on the quick break. When we'll come back, we'll dissect all of this and more on the Morning Buzz.
We are the station that brings you stories from the people's perspective.
We'll let your voice be heard. On Political Lens, we bring you deeper insights into happenings within the polity.
We create equality of representative opinion and fairness in politics, economic and diverse conversations.
Here we bring you breaking news, fresh perspectives, as well as fact-based analysis.
Watch our extraordinary shows from the People's Voice, where we get to amplify the stories and concerns of everyday Nigerians to hashtag.
To Health Check, where we share practical wellness tips and bring you deep insights from medical professionals.
Maritime Frontiers will dissect issues on port operations and more.
Every time we talk about sport, it's everything that has to do with sport, from the top to the finish. Just be with us, stay with us all of the time. We give you sporting activities just as you unfold, and that's what we do, and that's why we are called Voice of the People TV, and you already know.
We got you all covered.
Here, you have more than a voice.
All right, welcome back and thanks for staying with us. It's the Morning Buzz and Voice of the People television, and definitely we're talking about the Nigerian Medical Association. NMA has strongly criticized President Bola Tinubu's recent bilateral agreement to send Nigerian doctors to St. Lucia, describing the move as morally unjustifiable and a betrayal of the country's struggling health sector. In a statement signed by its Secretary General, Dr. Benjamin Egbo, the NMA expressed dismay that such an agreement was reached while Nigerian doctors face poor remuneration, withheld allowances, and worsening working conditions at home. The association argued that the agreement, which allows Nigerian doctors to earn up to 5 times more in the Caribbean nation, highlights the government's neglect of its own health workforce and appears more focused on international image than domestic needs. And the NMA said the deal contradicts the federal government's failure to address ongoing grievances, including poor implementation of welfare packages and hazardous working conditions, which continue to drive mass emigration of medical professionals. And just a day before the announcement, the NMA had issued a 21-day ultimatum demanding government action on unresolved issues such as withdrawal of a disputed salary circular, correction of pay structure distortions, and fulfillment of collective bargaining agreements. While acknowledging the importance of regional cooperation, the NMA warned that encouraging brain drain without fixing the crisis at home only worsens the nation's healthcare challenges. And still in the studio with us, we have Dr. Peter Anosike, Voice of the People, in-house analyst, and Mr. Dele Fanimo joining us virtually, also VOP TV in-house analyst, and of course from Benin confirmed. Okay, we also have a virtual guest from Benin also joining up us this lovely evening, talking about Emeka Nwokocha from Benin City. Okay. Anyway, let me start with Dr. Anosike is with us in the studio. Taking a look at the situation, yeah, what do you think? Because we all know the doctors have been going through a lot. Even before this administration, it is a trend. But we all know our politicians. They always want to look good internationally, and not being your brother's keeper is, would I say that's the word? But
well,
it is what it is.
Tinubu and Buhari, because what we have now is Buhari and Tinubu administration. Because Tinubu said that he will continue from Buhari's top, which means there's no break. So what they are practicing is charity begins at our way.
Not at all.
That's what they are practicing. That's why I will forever like Donald Trump. America first. Understand me? America first. Those who study biology knows that even the cell inside of the body is very, very selfish. Which means everything starts from you. So I don't even know if there are doctors to send. Because you remember when they were talking about brain drain, what Tinubu said. Tinubu said, don't worry, if they go, we'll train others. That's what the president of a country said. That their best should be going, then they'll be training others. He doesn't know how much it costs to train a doctor. And you begin to question the depth of these so-called people who are well, he has promised them, just as you said, to look good. But the international community also know what is happening in Nigeria. That is why Donald Trump invited the 5 presidents from America, from Africa, without inviting him. So the world know what is happening. Understand me? Now it is going to demoralize. What he did is going to demoralize other medical doctors in Nigeria. Understand? That is number one. It's going to increase the Japa syndrome. So this opportunity is elsewhere. Understand me? Nigerian doctors, now assuming that there are still some, because if you Google, you will see that even NASUT, Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, was recording retired medical personnel because of shortage of medical personnel in the country. And this guy has don't even care, but he's sending all the remaining ones to other countries just to curry favor. And mind you, in 2024, Nigeria made only $1.8 billion in FDI, while Kenya made 46 billion. Nigeria, the so-called giant of Africa, made just 1.8 billion in foreign direct investment. And I have told you, with the way Tinubu has compromised our judiciary, it's only Chinese and Indians that will come in to invest in this country. Because no good businessman will go in a country where he cannot get a redress or justice if anything goes wrong in his business. So what he's doing, one, he is demoralizing the few doctors who are still in this country, and again opening their eyes of opportunities in the other countries. Understand?
Okay. Let me now take this to Mr. Dele Fanimo. Taking a look at this situation, yeah, a lot of our doctors have been leaving the country and encouraging more to leave with this situation. And now the enemy is also taking advantage of the situation to let the whole world know the situation of our doctors. If this persists, what message does this send to the doctors who are still here? And why St. Lucia? What's about St. Lucia right now? Because I know it's not only St. Lucia, it's a Caribbean agreement between Nigeria and, of course, even Jamaica. Doctors are going to be sent to Jamaica. Mr. Fadima.
You see, exchange program like this is not new to Nigeria. Technical Aid Corps was established during the military era, and it's still being sustained up to today, where teachers majoring in agriculture and some other subjects are taken outside this country on exchange program, and at the end of the tour of their duty, they return home, maybe after 2 years. So it is not a novel idea of this administration to move doctors to Lucia. Now, again, there was a time in this country, we are not too young to know that there was a time in this country that Indians, teachers, doctors, engineers were being employed here. And even Ghanaians came in droves here, but at the end of the day, they returned back home. Now, the question is, what facilities are we deploying? What technology are we deploying in Nigeria health sector that would make these people stay? I've always said it, that salary is the 5th in the hierarchy of need of a worker. And I'm talking about this as a result of my knowledge in HR practice. Now, most of these doctors that find themselves outside this country, about 60% of them, it is not the money that attracted them per se, but where you are trained and you don't have the requisite equipment to work, where you are trained, all the money that have been going into private pockets in this country, these monies are more than enough to equip our hospitals that they would be ranked among the best. There was a time in this country, some 30 years ago, that patients were coming in droves from across Africa, Europe, and all elsewhere to take care of their health in hospitals like UCH, Lutz. But today, if you go to UCH, you find out that half of the facility is cut off from national grid. And the ones that have electricity, it's on epileptic power supply. And you know how costly diesel is today. So when you are constrained, rather than concentrate on what you should do as a professional, as a medical personnel, as a surgeon, what should occupy your mind is, what novel idea am I going to employ to do this? Do you know that MIR machine is not even available in some states, a whole state in Nigeria, whereas in some jurisdictions abroad, you find private hospitals, government hospitals having MIR machine, scanning machine, brain scan and all that. Today in Nigeria, if you don't visit private hospital, you are not likely to access this. And so, ordinarily, if you now have a place where it will be conducive for you, one, you are going to that country, and the interest of your family, including your wife or your husband, will be taken care of, and the children will have good school to attend, and they now have a career to pursue. No matter what, nothing will stop you from moving to that country. So technically, government had enabled Japa syndrome as a result of not providing the requisite facility. Do you know that up to today, laser surgery is like a luxury here, whereas in some other clients, they are even moving from that level to nuclear medicine. So who doesn't want to catch up with latest technology as a professional, and you will now want to remain here and become a dead wood?
All right.
That when he travels, and for instance, if somebody is taken abroad and the doctor follows that person, automatically, because of that level of deficiency in Nigeria and decadence, that doctor, in spite of the fact that he is brilliant, will not be allowed to partake in the medical care of that patient over there, because he doesn't even know how to operate those machines.
Thank you very much for your...
So government is our major problem in this.
Okay, thank you very much for your contribution. But let's head straight to our Benin studio where we have Mr. Emeka Umokocha, a public affairs analyst and political analyst and commentator who also doubles as a human rights activist. I think this is the right time to bring you in. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, loud and clear. I want you to speak to the NMA, the Nigerian Medical Association, who have issued a 21-day ultimatum demanding government action on unresolved issues, because before that announcement was made by the president, it was reported that the NMA had already issued a 21-day ultimatum to the government demanding action on unresolved issues such as the withdrawal of disputed salary circular, correction of pay structure distortion, and fulfillment of collective bargaining agreements. Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Did you get the question? Okay, while we work on the network issue there, please, we'll come back to you. Let me come to you, Dr. Anosike. Nigerian staff, Nigerian workers are grappling with a lot of insincerity on the part of the government when it comes to their remuneration and how they are being treated at home. While not dwelling too much on who is going to be transferred and what the bilateral relationship means for both nations, which is normal, how do you respond to the NMA in 2025 still having to issue ultimatum to the government to demand unresolved issues around their salary structure, correction of distortions in the structure, and of course, fulfillment of collective bargaining agreements, which has been prior to this administration? How long are we going to continue to do this?
Well, you said that it is insincerity, understand me? For me, it is lack of empathy. If you check UK, increase their call it NLM, national NLW, national living wage, to 12.2 pounds an hour. In this 2025, understand? 12.2 pounds per hour. And if you check the value, if you convert 12.2 pounds, understand me, to our currency, understand? You see that Nigerian workers are wasting all their time here. So because this is a country that cares about the welfare and the well-being of their people. In South Africa, you cannot owe a company that workers more than 3 months. They will kick you out. Even as you are registering on your company, you already have a salary, understand, for the next 1 year. So that there will be no excuses.
So you won't come to say that the business is not doing well or...
No excuses, understand me? So the issue is here is that government knows how to take advantage of the Nigerian people. And Nigerian people are too docile, very, very gullible and docile.
Are they actually gullible and docile, or is it about the climate where we find ourselves and the people being limited to, access to other opportunities? Because these things have been on, from one government to the other. If this body is not coming out to protest, another body is going on strike. We've seen this happen across different sectors in the country, and this is 2025. We're supposed to be progressing. So what exactly is the problem? How is it difficult for government to meet up with the agreement that they've made with bodies? Is it a function of an outgoing government agreeing to terms towards the end of their tenure and a new one coming to sit down and think of how they can work to make things better, or just the negligence of our government? Maybe the standards or the structure in place, maybe the system is just against the Nigerian people.
Government has studied the makeup of Nigerians. Understand me? They have studied the makeup of Nigerian workers, Nigerian people. And they see that they don't mind being pushed to the wall. And when they are pushed to the wall, they don't even have that capacity to bounce back. Imagine Kenya protest is coming on July 7th. Understand? And because countries know that it's going to be massive, Canada, Sweden has called on their people living in Kenya, be mindful, don't go out on Tuesday. But here, Nigerians will be, you heard what your Senate and President said the other time, make the protest, make with the chop, which means he doesn't care. And that's how Nigerian government think. Those in government, that's how they think, because Nigerians are so weak when it comes to protest. Even apart from NSAS, NSAS is the longest protest in the history of this country. Before, protests don't go beyond 3 days. Understand me? Imagine what happened in South Korea and understand me? They were marching to their National Assembly. Their lawmakers have to run back from their own houses to the National Assembly to go and repeal the martial law.
Yeah.
Can it happen in this country?
I think, Dr. Anosike, I think somehow we're exonerating those who are really at fault. Because we need to call out, for instance, the Minister of Health, who is Professor Mohammed Ali Pati, and also the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare. He also serves in those capacities. And we also have Dr. Isaac Adekunle, who's also the State Minister of State for Health. And the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry is Daju Kacholom. These guys are supposed to make sure that all of this is well taken care of. The president might be so busy with administering the country. But what about those who have been saddled with the responsibility of managing the Ministry of Health? What has been their activities? At least we've seen situations where ministers take action with the budget they have to make sure that all of these issues are mitigated so that it won't get to this point where there will have to be a protest. But we see a situation where the ministers are only interested in answering being a minister and not acting as a minister. What have gone so wrong?
Because most of 100% of them are incompetent. All of them, there's no Ronaldo or Messi in Tinubu's cabinet. Understand me? This is a bunch of incompetent people appointed based on sentiment, bias, and reward for helping to rig an election. So it is, you cannot give what you don't have. You cannot give what you don't have, and that is why it is happening. Go and check how both the Senate and the Congress passed on the bill that Donald Trump sent two days ago. Donald Trump was on live TV watching them because he knows what this bill is going to do. He has to be awake and be watching what is going on. But you see a president who send a bill to the National Assembly and go to France, go to India because he doesn't care.
We're still talking about the ministers, both the minister, the coordinating ministers. We also know that this sector there are institutions with director generals and the like. Exactly. I want to dwell a bit on your thoughts on this show here. It was just a weekend when you were appraising one of the ministers, talking about, no, I think it was on the People's Voice, when you were highlighting the 2 years and you were able to appraise, I think, Bumi Ojo. You specifically mentioned two names. Is it about exactly? So because you just said something totally different now. Is it about an anger against the government, or being able to put different ministers who have been appointed for a purpose to check? Because yes, we've talked about the United States, but we have a problem closer to us, which we are supposed to proffer solutions to. So are we going to exonerate the ministers because a Donald Trump would rather watch what is going on in the Senate. These are ministers that are even supposed to be intermediaries between the government and the sector, which is a very crucial and sensitive one. Nigerian doctors have had to go on one strike or the other. As a matter of fact, in 2018, it was reported that it was about the longest one that lasted for about 44 days. This is not what we need in a country where doctors that have even retired had to be called back. So how do we deal with the situation of appointees and the structures that are supposed to protect the people too? We have JOESU, we have NARD, we have NMA, we have different groups, we have different associations when it comes to medical practitioners in Nigeria. And we see that in most cases, it feels like one association gets satisfied after one meeting and the next is on the edge. And at the end of the day, the agreement continues from whether since 1999 to 2025 and exonerates whoever was in power and still comes to the situation, it comes to the present day situation, and at the end of the day, we never get to find solutions because we'd rather pick on the political part than what the issues are.
Let me give you where all this problem starts, from the presidency. That's where this problem starts. And I always want to use America as an example. If you are being appointed, understand me, as your name is being sent to the Senate for screening, the portfolio will be attached. You are going to be the Secretary of Health. Understand me? So as you go to the Senate, they will ask you questions based on that. Understand me? They will ask you questions based on that. You are going to be appointed Secretary of Agriculture. Now, they know that Jed is coming there. He's going to become the Secretary of Agriculture. The Senate will research on things on agriculture, the problems of agriculture in Nigeria, and ask you questions based on that. But now, President appoints ministers without a portfolio. As they are in the Senate being screened, there will be no specific questions.
But he's a professor, he's a physician. They're talking about Ali Pate Mohammed. He should know better.
Because as a matter of fact, for Ali Pate, there were questions, even without portfolios, there were questions, if I watch what you saw, there were questions around the possibilities of being a minister in that sector and the possibility of him doing something differently and looking at his antecedents compared to what the situation in Nigeria is. So, is it about answering questions or the inability of the system not to be able to keep up with agreements that tend to leave Nigerian workers vulnerable at every time?
The question is, assuming you are appointed, understand me, that was the question.
And that is the past. Jerry just established now that he's a practitioner, is somebody that is in the field. I am talking about the system and the structure, which should be the major contention now.
You cannot give what you don't have.
So the structure is not a problem. The associations that goes into meeting with different government bodies, with different government appointees, set back whatever their standards are, and wait for another administration. Then another association wakes up tomorrow and make another demand. How do we resolve that problem and ensure that Nigerian workers get their benefits?
Resolving it is by appointing competent ministers who knows what is wrong in their ministries.
Yeah.
Understand me? Okay. That's where it should start. What you don't know, you cannot ask the right question.
Okay. So do you fault the association in any front? Like the association?
They are pressure groups. They're meant to.
They are pressure groups. There is to be bringing demand upon demand.
I think you are not getting my point now, because it's not about bringing the demands. Are you going to fault them for bringing demands, going into alliance with political office holders, and at the end of the day, going quiet, allowing whatever transpired behind the scene, you understand, like settling those at the forefront, then making sure that the majority of the workers are suffering? It's not about mounting pressures. To what end? Why are they mounting these pressures? This conversation has been endless. Since 1999 till now. There have always been conversation. There have always been settlements. Then you wake up to another tenure and you see that it's being reported that the agreement, the collective bargaining agreements are not being met. So are we going to take out the representation from the association of these medical doctors from the collateral damage that is being done to the welfare of their own staff?
I think, for instance, let me go over. We have a virtual guest in Benin talking about Emeka Nwokocha. But if you look at it, we're told to leave this conversation so that we can move over to the next conversation. I would have loved to.
But this is a very important.
Yeah, it's a very important conversation anyway.
No, the guest in Benin is not available. He said he should move back to the studio.
Okay.
What of the
one? Mr. Dele Fanimo is still with us. I would have loved to also. Okay, the Benin guest is now in, talking about Emeka Nwokocha. I was just talking about the policy when it comes to the health sector. And most of the time, it has to do with political will. Because whether you like it or not, the politicians have access to these funds. And if they use the funds well, as far as the ministers is concerned, the governors, and now the local government chairman who will be having access to funds, if they persecute these funds well and take care of the facilities that makes these doctors comfortable, I think the minimum will now be on whether their welfare package is enough. Because if they are well comfortable in terms of vehicles, allowances, the facilities are standard and so on and so forth, and the minister is persecuting the policy. We've seen beautiful policies that have been made by various governments, but the minister will come there, sit down, and just be interested in making himself rich and appointing his friends or family friends into juicy positions in the health sector. But it has become a trend. Why? For instance, we've seen presidents go ahead to pick good heads in various ministries because they know they will achieve. If Ali Party is not doing well, the last time we were expecting the president to at least reshuffle or take away ministers who are not performing. And I was embarrassed when some journalists were sitting with the president and they could not point any of the ministers. The president was asking them, which of the ministers are not performing?
Then when they are corrected,
and they couldn't say anything.
That comes to my emphasis on the system. Yeah. You see people who have the right to speak on behalf of a larger population being interested in what they are going to get. And at the end of the day,
the guy in Benin is waiting for people.
Emeka Nwokocha, please, I would like you to talking about react to that.
Can you hear me? Good morning.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, I've been listening to the conversations, and all the guests who have made their own contributions have done marvelously well. I think the point you should be talking about here is all about those who are leading us from the presidency to the minister or whatever you call them. You know, they do not have at the empathy of Nigerians, and they don't have the interest of this country at heart. You will recall that many of them have had opportunities to travel abroad and see how some of these sectors work seamlessly, and see the kind of technology and science deployed to make sure those sectors are properly delivered and the people get value for the services. But down here, there is no sector in this country you can point and say it is moving currently. Everything has come to a halt. The medical sector that's supposed to be a priority sector, we have heard that, not even hearing, in our medical sector today, it could be described as being comatose. There's nothing to take home about. If you go to even when you call them teaching hospitals, the equipment you see there, they are all obsolete. Nothing is working. The teaching facilities are nothing to write home about. The welfare, nothing. Everything about it has collapsed. And the presidency, no. The minister knows. Then the question now is that, how have we been romancing these issues? When a minister is appointed, I think there should be a timeline. We should be able to articulate these problems. What are we going to solve within 4 months, within 4 years' time? If it is all about the remuneration of the workers, let us deal with it. How come there will be agreements every time and the government not meeting the agreement? Are you telling me there's no money to pay the health workers well, or rather the doctors well, Are you telling me there's no money to say, okay, let's prioritize our health institutions and ensure that the necessary equipments and facilities are put there? Where should we spend the money? The money should be spent in critical sectors that will deliver services to the ordinary person, because the ordinary person is the reason for which the government was constituted. But when they get into office, they tend to treat these areas with levity because of their own personal aggrandizement. There's no Nigerian leader that has empathy for this country. There's no Nigerian leader that's feel the pulse of the common man. Because what you see today, how they carry themselves will tell you there's a total departure, there's a lacuna. They are not even concerned. Not until we begin to see people who I truly believe in this brand called Nigeria, this project called Nigeria, and who are pained about the retrogressive move, trajectory of this country, and say, no, we have to sacrifice and deliver service. Nothing will happen. The presidency today, when he gets headache, he flies to London, he flies to France to treat the headache. Why would he not go to Lut to treat his headache? Is he saying you don't have professionals who could treat his headache? By only doing that, we tell you that he jettisons our medical system. That tells you that there's nothing there they can give. And they have made it so because they do not believe in this country. Let us really say the truth. We don't have a president that believes in Nigeria.
Okay.
We don't have a minister that believes in Nigeria. We don't have a National Assembly members that believe in Nigeria. They all are seeing Nigeria, as a farm where they get their money and they go abroad and enjoy themselves. And that's exactly what is happening.
It's quite unfortunate. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Emeka Onwokocha. It's quite unfortunate. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Yeah, that's how we draw the curtain on reacting to the top stories in the news this morning. Thank you so much, Dr. Peter Anosike, and from Ibadan, Mr. Dele Fanimo. Yeah. We'll go on a quick break now, and when we come back, we return with trends. Stay tuned on the Morning Buzz.
Good morning. It's the start of a beautiful day. Well, start your day right with a healthy dose of news, fun, and inspiration. Join us on VOP this morning for the latest news, trending topics, and uplifting stories to set your day on the right vibe. From news and current events to lifestyle and entertainment, you are covered.
VOP this morning, 8 a.m., Monday through Friday.
Back to business. Welcome back to the Morning Buzz on VOP TV this beautiful Saturday morning. And on trends this morning, the United States of America Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, has filed a civil forfeiture complaint against Lagos-based Nigerian fraudster Ehireme Agboikan. You help me with that name, Jerry. Accusing him of
Ehireme
Agboikan. It's actually his cousin, accusing him of stealing over 440 million through a cryptocurrency scam targeting donors to the 2025 Trump-Vance inaugural committee. According to the court documents, Agboikan and his accomplices used a sophisticated business email compromise scheme, impersonating official emails to solicit fake donations for former President Donald Trump's inauguration. One victim was duped into sending $250,300 and this was valued at over 400 million naira. And after receiving a deceptive email mimicking the official inaugural committee's address, the scammers quickly dispersed the stolen funds to multiple cryptocurrency wallets. However, the FBI intervened, requesting crypto firm Theta to freeze the implicated accounts and launched an investigation tracing the digital trade to Agboikan in Lagos, Nigeria. Further investigation also revealed that a Binance account registered by Agboikan in October 2024 received part of the stolen funds. Digital forensics and IP logs consistently link the scam activity to Lagos, Nigeria. So far, over 60 million naira worth of US dollars has been recovered from wallets tied to the fraud, with the US Attorney's Office now seeking court approval to permanently seize the assets. The FBI is also pursuing an arrest warrant for Igbokan. I mean, this is a world-class scam.
Yeah, high level for sophisticated fraud, you know. And it seems like Nigerians have found the way to, will I say, use their intelligence the wrong way. But that would not say that we've not seen a lot of Nigerians who are doing it the right way, who are blazing the trail and so on and so forth. This is a lot of money, taking advantage of Donald Trump's good image among his supporters.
Exactly.
To swindle them for this large amount of money. This is a lot of money, for crying out loud. This is more like a budget of some states, if I want to look at it.
460 billion naira.
What was he going to use that kind of money for? And I know some of them, we see them parading themselves in clothes. And this is also the reason why we have lots of money in the economy, because sometimes we cannot explain how some money gets into the economy. It pushes a lot of money and puts pressure as well on the economy. What does this say about the character of fraudsters?
Well, for me, I don't see anything that makes it sophisticated. It's just a common thing. He played on the greed of his victims.
No, the victim was trying to support the president.
So on this part, it wasn't like it was a transaction or a business thing.
He was trying
to
like
supposed to be after Donald Trump won the election. It was supposed to be a committee, a committee to support Donald Trump's inauguration. So it wasn't greed on the part of the people that invested. It was a show of support, like, my candidate eventually won, and we are probably planning something towards his inauguration.
Yeah.
But what does it say about the Nigerian community? Because we have Nigerians that are doing beautifully well, and at the same time, we also have cases like this that is not limited to Nigerians. We have scammers from across the globe. But how can our image, how do we define our image outside Nigeria with all of this?
One, what they are doing is creating bad names for Nigerians, both at home and abroad. Understand me? And again, these people also lack knowledge, because as I'm sitting here, I can give you names of people that donated to Donald Trump inauguration. It was made open. America is not a closed society. So it simply means that if you check it, Jeff Bezos, Zuckerberg, both of them return about 2 million, that's for the inauguration.
Yes.
So this thing is not hidden. Understand me?
But those were the most popular ones. There are other people that must have invested in that too.
No, I say it is not hidden. Transactions in America are always open. But this guy now, maybe they must have been promised you go to the White House, you shake Donald Trump, and so on and so forth. Because this is the inauguration on the January 21. So he took advantage, one, of their greed, understand me, and their maybe unexposure, that they don't know how the system works. But what he end up doing is, one, creating a bad name for Nigerians everywhere in the world. They will now, everywhere you go now, you become a suspect, understand me. That's why they will tell you that Zimbabwean green card, national ID card is more valued than Nigerian own, because of the bad name that they are causing for us. That's everywhere.
I understand the place of the bad name, because immediately I said Jerry was going to help me with the name because it's his cousin. The first thing he said was, we are not related. But really, how well can Nigeria, young people, how can we channel our talent? What are we? I'm talking to you, Jerry. That I want to get your reaction as a younger person now. We are really talented.
I'm really a younger person. Wow. I love to be called a younger person.
You are actually younger than Dr. Anosike in our ramification here. So okay. We are talented people. We have access to a lot of research work that the world has not been able to register, maybe make official, because we do a lot when it comes to digging deep and trying to understand how we can do things differently. How can we use all of this to better our lives and society? It's enough that the government is choking us. It's enough that we all want to call out the government every day. We shouldn't be calling ourselves out to all of this. So how can we do things differently?
Yeah, I think the private sector will also need to come in. We've seen a lot of...
Like employ all the talents?
No, they don't need to employ all the talents. They can also invest, for instance, in... sometimes I see where there are boot camps to encourage the young ones. I took free boot camp where you come to learn coding and so on and so forth. And I've seen some private businessmen anyway also try and train people into Bitcoin and how the transaction works and how to make money personally for yourself. The youth could actually take advantage of all of these opportunities instead of going into fraud. Yeah, you want to make money, but it should not be quick. You should learn the trade, learn how to trade money. We have various online who are even asking for people to come because they need a lot of other talents who could actually, because the way the AI is and the way the foreign exchange and the Bitcoin society is, the way you operate it is different from the way I will operate it because there's something unique about it, the way it works. So that is why they need a lot of more people to come in, and the way you apply your method could be different from the way I apply my method, and the way you make your money can be different from the way I make my money. So it's a big community. Okay. So it accepts a lot of people. You don't have to start swindling people to make money. You could take advantage of the channels and opportunities that are available online and make money. You don't have to go into fraud. And when you're making money, you get to at least take care of the basic needs, not going to oppress and looking for where to buy gold chain and want to buy the latest car and live large and live exorbitant and youthful exuberance.
So on the lighter note, Dr. Nosika said that yes, it's because of greed, which that was not established in the conversation. But I want to talk about the quality of the person. So on the lighter note now, do you think that any Nigerian would have been scammed using the name of Bola Ahmed Tinubu's inauguration as a yardstick?
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. A lot of people still love Bola Tinubu, no matter how bad some people see him. And a lot of people who can still be swindled, and they say they want to do something in 2027, they will send them a text message in the village, and because of the love of Tinubu, they will forward money. Yeah, it still happens. Even as educated as you are, there is still a lot of educated people that will still fall victim because they will say, Tinubu, I want him to remain there in 2027. They say they are contributing money. The person who going to contribute his last kobo. Yeah, situations still happen like that. So I'm even surprised that Mr. Onisike is saying that people are greedy and so they are open channels. Even as much as the open channels are. During Peter Obi's time, I still got a message where people were saying, come and support Peter Obi's movement with so, send to this account. Some people fell victim of it. So it will surely happen. But it now depends on how they're able to find a situation where people are educated and informed that don't fall victim of such fraud.
Is education enough? Is education enough? Is sensitization
enough? It has limitations. Yeah,
because apart from the fraud accounts that people say, oh, send money to for so person's candidate, we also saw that at the end of the day, even the original account, we still saw irregularities in being able to be accountable for monies donated and monies spent. But on a lighter note, Nigerians are amazing people, and this is 2025. We can actually do things differently, but it's almost the end of the show. Let's get your final thoughts on all of our conversations, Dr. Anosike.
This is not really the issue of education. This is the issue of exposure, understand, and being streetwise.
Streetwise, that's the word, streetwise. Let
me give you a typical example. When I call names, in 2015, there's one man, Godi Ezemo, who wanted to contest for governorship in Anambra, understand me, and he was battling with Ngige. People promised him that they are going to take him to Bola Ahmed Tinubu, understand me. The guy gave them 6 million. I was one of the journalists that were invited that come and cover the event. The guy chartered a coastal bus. We moved there. That's from airport road to Bodington. That they are taking him to Tinubu. When we got there, they just say we were at Tinubu's fence. They said that they should take picture, and let the man say whatever he wants to say. Nobody knocked at Tinubu's gate. Understand me? But the guy has paid 6 million. And he has to pay the journalists that came to cover